Troysaw, hello, welcome back to Rob Ryan Red, the Wrexham podcast brought to you in association with Red 10 People Development. On today's show, we'll look back at the easy reading at the weekend. We'll bring you the latest transfer news ahead of deadline day, and we'll look ahead to Wrexham's clash with Peterborough this weekend.
Rob Ryan Red.
So, Nath, another fine Wrexham win, 3-0 at home over Reading. How are you doing? How are you feeling this week?
Well, we cannot gloss over the fact that we were probably meant to record this an hour ago, and yet you decided that you had some spicy noodles. It needed a bit of what's happened, mate? Because I've been sat here for an hour wondering what's...
This was Chloe trying to do me a favour. She'd seen some sort of TikTok viral noodles that were really popular. Bought them me as a treat for lunch, but it was more of a hate crime because to use one of Canadian Jeff's phrases, I've had to raw dog some Greek yogurt because my mouth has been on fire for about half an hour. It feels like I've sucked Satan off. I just can't. Yeah, I'm in a bad place right now. I think my lips are going to be bright red on this. I've had to adjust the lighting so I don't look quite as red-faced as I am in real life because I'm in a bad place right now, Nathan. I'm in a very bad place.
You know, I am sorry I asked. I'm okay. Yeah, fine. Been a kind of... very sort of quiet week for me, Rex. It's just great. And also, I very much enjoyed seeing Bolton. I was getting obviously lots of messages about Nathan's talking nonsense about this and that because of Bolton. And then obviously Bolton went and lost at the weekend. So maybe they aren't this like super mega force that people are telling me they are.
3 games in.
We'll see. Yeah, but we'll see. But right now, I think, anyway, let's not go back over Bolton. Reading, I was tipping for, and also I won't out the person who said this, but I did get a message which made me laugh. I was obviously talking up Ruben Sellers, kind of... he's future contender manager, and then obviously Wrexham firmly put Reading to the sword, and this individual said, "Do not put Ruben Sellers' name in your mouth ever again." So there you go.
Again, it's all good fun and games, but again, as I've said, we're 3 games into the season. If we'd done this same chat this time last year, we'd be like, Parky out, Wrexham are doomed, we're going to get relegated to National League, it's over, it's all been in vain. There's so much football left yet. Ruben Sellers, I'm sure, will do a good job of Reading. Bolton, I'm sure, will be right up there. Wrexham, pleasantly surprised, aren't we, so far? And I guess that is maybe even the sort of mood for the start of the podcast, Nate, because, it is too early to look at the table, really, but we are in a very favourable sort of form at the moment, very feel-good factor. We've had some tough games that we've already overcome. And, we were saying that this would have been good for a season of stability. I don't want to get too excited and giddy and think that, could another promotion be on the cards just yet? But I'm feeling very confident that we won't be in this sort of relegation dog scrap that, the devil advocate in me was worried that it could be that sort of season.
No, I didn't see that. And the question I was going to ask you before you sort of burned your head off with these spicy noodles was, can Wrexham, I mean, obviously, the answer to this for every team is yes, but realistically, in our heart of hearts, can Wrexham win it all?
No. Sorry, I've just knocked my light there because I'm so shocked.
You're so annoyed, you're so angry, you hit your light off. Why not, though? Why can't they win it all? Why not?
I mean, again, if you asked Ipswich last season when they've gone up, you would have said no, and obviously momentum plays a big part in things, and we have that feel-good factor. We have that money can't buy positivity and momentum, and that just winning belief that other teams don't have. You look at our home record, particularly under Phil Parkinson, you can still pinpoint every single game we've lost at home. They're that few and far between, and they seem like real noteworthy events every time we do lose or even drop points at home. That's how formidable we are. So we've got that. We've got that just feel good factor. We've got the winning belief. We've got just that aura about us at the moment, which is, it's something money can't buy, and it is really hard. Sport is crazy. These things happen, and they're unexplainable. Of course, Wrexham can win the league this season. We can do it. We can get promoted. But I would still say that, to put on the flip side, we've played a Wycombe team who look okay, Reading team who haven't been able to buy any players. and they're the Bolton team that we're calling are in crisis now, are we? They're not they're not what they're made to be. So what have we actually achieved so far this season? I just think that when I look at the other teams, where are we going to finish? I was at the Blossoms gig. This is a tangent in Wivenshaw Park on Sunday. There were hundreds of Stockport County shirts. I'm quite glad I didn't wear my Wrexham shirt just for the unnecessary football bants you'd get at a festival and people lobbing piss and stuff. But are we a better? Stockport were a better team than us last season, and I'd say they've had a better summer than us as well. So by that logic, we're still behind them, and we're probably still behind Birmingham, who have a very good squad, have basically unlimited resources at this level that are very hard to compete with. And then there's the likes of Huddersfield, Rotherham, Barnsley, who, might not all be swimming perfectly at the moment, but they've just got that know-how and nous of getting out of this league. They've got the street smarts. They know how to do it over a proper horrible campaign. So I would say that right now I'm feeling more confident than ever that we might be able to get the playoffs. But I still think that there are just better teams, and that's not a problem. There are teams who are, in the case of Stockport, a year ahead of us in their journey and have spent a lot more money than us recently as well. So,
Rich, the way I look at it, I'm looking at it now, and it's early on, and I'm only going off the initial start of the season. I think Birmingham, you can kind of pencil in, maybe even write it in pen if you really want, that they're going to win the league. They're just about to go and drop £1 million on Lyndon Dykes, which is just a crazy striker transfer for this level. And Alfie Mays, hit the ground running as we expected. But really, I think a lot of teams this early on in the season will be looking at that second spot going, okay, Rotherham are in meltdown. They are actually, you see their fans, they are furious with what's happened so far. They are panicking about the players they've sold. Why are they not scoring? What, has Max Cleworth got more goals than Johnson Clark-Harris? Or someone fake their fans? I know it's early, but just hear me out here. When we both said they were going to be our number 2 pick, and they may well be. They may figure it out, and they'll still be really, really good. Huddersfield are looking really good under Michael Duff. Charlton have got big aspirations under Nathan Jones. Stockport have started really well under Dave Challoner, and so Wrexham really unbeaten so far. Two wins at home, and the draw away at Bolton, and you've got a very tough test this weekend at Peterborough. But I do think quietly behind the scenes for a lot of these teams, there's maybe 5, 6, 7 teams that are looking going, that second spot behind Birmingham isn't completely out of reach, and I think Wrexham will be in that mix.
Yeah, I still think it's just a bit above us, but it's where consistency comes in for us, and where you've got a manager who has a very set style of play. The players know exactly what's expected of them, and we have also got resource to reinvest in the squad in January if required. We do have a lot of advantage going our way. Again, like I said, not to be too negative, but was it the season Stockport went up for the National League? Did they start really poorly and sack their manager, and then Challoner came in? I swear after
Simon
10
Rusk
games
or something like that. I feel like that was Rusk.
I swear they were like bottom half or something after 10 matches, which is quite a relevant example to bring up, isn't it? That it's got to be my new catchphrase. But Reading in particular, Nath, I would say it's one of my favourite home wins under Parky. For me, it was, what was weird for me was I was actually working on Saturday, as I teased on last week's podcast. So I wasn't maybe meant to be there, but I managed to get there just in time. I really put that new 20-mile-per-hour speed limit in North Wales to the test. Let's say.
What time did you get to your seat? What time did you actually make it to your seat?
1 minute past 3.
Wow.
Which brings me on to the point, which was really interesting, because I got to Plas Coch. Wrexham fans who go to the games will know where that is. Even if you don't, you know where the retail park is. And I was walking through the Plas Coch, and as I came into the car park there, I thought the game had kicked off because it was so loud. And it was a feeling I've never really had before, because I've left a few games early in the last couple of years now. Sort of broke my duck on that and realised leaving 3 minutes early gets me home half an hour earlier. So sometimes it's worth doing. But being outside the racecourse as the match kicks off, the noise is so loud, and the acoustics just around the whole sort of complex, it's deafening now. There used to be times where you go to the racecourse and not even know a game was on. And now, you've got just this cacophony of noise, and having Reading fans there who travelled really well. But I'm of that era of watching Reading in the Premier League, that Kevin Doyle team, when they came back up in 2012 with Adam Le Fondre, and they had these epic matches. And we weren't just playing Reading, who I know have their own issues at the moment, but we absolutely just destroyed them. And this is a team that was in the Premier League, just seems like a few years ago to me. And yeah, it just made me remember how possible this all is for us. Because if Reading got there, why can't Wrexham have got there? If Hull got there, Bournemouth, Swansea, Brentford, Brighton, why can't that be Wrexham? And that's what made me realise once again that we're going to the Premier League at some point, just because we
Yeah.
have that momentum. And I thought the performance was just really professional. We didn't have loads of the ball. That was in part because we're so good on the break. We sort of absorb pressure.
33% of the ball to be
Yeah.
exact.
And then we sort of did what we do to when we play the bigger teams, and we just hit them on the break, devastating. The build up to the second goal is absolutely filthy. It is the interchange, I think, between Cannon and Lee is obscene. The way the whole move sort of comes apart is fantastic, and we get the goal at the end of it. And again, it was just a joyous day at the racecourse. The sun was shining, real good sort of atmosphere as well at the start. I know there's a lot of criticism about racecourse atmosphere and people who maybe get a bit nostalgic for the past when the product just wasn't the same and they're not too comparable. And I think that's a bit rose tinted glasses because the atmosphere was good for the first sort of half an hour on Saturday. The problem was we'd won the game. We'd won the game by half time, and then we get a third after the break. That's why Reading had even more of the possession in the closing stages because there was no real need for us to have the ball. And that's why the atmosphere towards the end of these games sometimes just dwindles out. Because whether it's right or wrong, we are so used to winning now and maybe a bit entitled and a bit blasé about a home win. We beat Reading 3-0. Like, I don't want this to be lost on people how big an achievement that is, considering where both teams have been in the last 5 years. Like, this is huge. I know it's not going to get the back page spreads it deserves, maybe, and it is a Reading team and Reading club who are in their own sort of crisis, and hopefully those issues can be resolved. And there were protests, against their ownership, and they want all this to be solved. But I just think it was a great achievement given Wrexham. I thought it was a great performance. I thought there were so many stand-up players for man of the match. But for me, no idea how. I think James McLean got it in the end, didn't he?
He
the
did,
official stadium one.
He did.
How it wasn't Ryan Barnett, I have no idea. They must have wanted to meet Maka.
I was going to say, how on earth was it not Andy Cannon, who I thought was absolutely... I praised him last week. I thought he was fabulous again. And I sort of asked my dad who he thought it was. And, he had a few different contenders. Thought defensively were really good. And he suggested potentially Barnett and Cannon were the two contenders. But again, man of the match, you always want to get the shirt. And was it that long sleeve McLean shirt that somebody wanted to have in the bag?
Maybe that was just a savvy sort of move.
Maybe. Play the numbers game, and they're very rare to get hold of. So... but no, when you're talking about Reading, Rich, I always think of that. I don't know if anyone else listens to remember that game where they played Arsenal at the
7-5.
and Marouane Chamak's the player I always think of in that game. Just a real sort of like cult hero striker at Arsenal.
It was a League Cup game. It was like I think Reading were winning 5-3, and then it went to 5-5 with that last kick of the game. Then it went to extra time, and Arsenal scored twice to win 7-5.
I remember. I think. I don't think it was. It must have been like. This is a very weird tangent. I apologize.
It was Bentner and Chamakh sort of.
But I feel like Olivier Giroud, if he was there at the time, somebody gave their shirt to the fans and then realized there was extra time. And,
yeah, I think it was Giroud. He thought it was a replay.
Yeah. So he gave his shirt away, and then they're having to get the shirt back from the fans. So anyway,
I know that's a reference that our listener Joel will love because Joel absolutely loves French football. He is so knowledgeable. We met him in Vancouver.
Incredibly knowledgeable.
And he's been writing for our site. So if you see the articles on robbrownred.com, they are all written by Joel, who so kindly gives his time and his energy to do them. So thank you so much again, Joel, for doing that. And his article this week ties into the next question. It was Paul Mullen's return, triumphant return. It was good to see him back. Okay, maybe a little bit rusty. It seemed to be the same last year when he came back from injury. It wasn't quite the same, and then he hit the ground running, irreplaceable. What happens now, though? Because Jack Marriott doesn't deserve to be dropped. I think he's played really well, and he should have had a goal as well at the weekend. But it was in the second half when the cross came in and McLean volleyed it over the bar, when he could potentially cut it back to Jack Marriott, who was stood sort of unmarked. It would have been a difficult finish, but was sort of saying, he sort of gave McLean a look and said, "Come on, man, give us a chance." But yeah, Marriott doesn't really deserve to be dropped, but he's not Paul Mullen. However, the flip side would be Marriott's proven at League One and Championship level. Paul Mullen's not.
Ultimately, I think that Jack Marriott will get the start again away at Peterborough. And
former team as well.
Former team, and then I would suspect that going into that Shrewsbury game, you get Paul Mullin starting alongside Ollie Palmer or a new striker. We'll get onto transfer business shortly. And I think that normal service will resume and Marriott will get fits and starts and he'll get half an hour here and 20 minutes there and maybe a cup game there. And that's going to be the norm. That's just going to be the norm. And it's going to depend on injuries. And, you know, I see people talking about could he, and Joel was written about, you know, what does it mean for Marriott on the website? And I would urge you to go and read that and sort of debate that and kind of come up with your own opinion. But I would suggest that the hierarchy of the striking department, as it stands today, with 2.5 days left of the window, according mid afternoon on the Wednesday, it closes at 11 p.m. on Friday the 30th. As it stands right now, I think the hierarchy for the striking department is pretty clearly laid out, and that would involve Marriott being behind Mullin in that sort of number 9, just that kind of more press
Mobile
type,
striker.
mobile striker, yeah, I would say.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. I think, again, it's one of these... It's so easy as a football fan to always vouch for the guy who doesn't get a chance. Because if a result doesn't go your way or there's a poor performance, the person who's not played is always the answer. That is always the solution. And you've always thought about that. For me, it was always, Nicky Devedix, give him a chance. He's going to be good. JJ Hooper, get him on. We're going to score goals. Dan Jarvis, Davis Taylor-Dunn. Who else? Who was the guy we had in midfield?
I thought JJ Hooper.
John Nolan.
I genuinely thought JJ Hooper, when he signed, I thought he was the missing piece. I thought he scored so many goals, and I've never been duped. I've never been duped by a footballer so much as I was with JJ Hooper. I was utterly convinced that he was going to be this sort of goal scoring phenomenon, and yet, alas, it
Bobby
didn't
Grant
turn out to be.
Yeah.
I didn't think that with Bobby Grant. I
thought Bobby Grant was going to be a good signing, but that's a discussion for a very rainy day. And it is a rainy day now, but I think we need to have a monsoon for Bobby Grant to be back on the agenda. What were we talking about?
Mullin and Marriott.
My point being, it's very easy to make the case for Marriott, but then you take for granted how good Paul Mullin is, and he's player of the season whenever he plays for Wrexham. He's always our catalyst, our talisman in attack. He makes goals out of nothing. He's the one guy you'd want on a pressure shot in the last minute. If a half chance comes across goal, Paul Mullin is the guy. And just because he was played on the left wing for half a season for Tranmere in League One doesn't mean he's not going to score goals at this level. I think he'll get between sort of maybe like 15 goals a season, which is a good return. My concern, as always, is where do the other goals sort of come from in the squad? Very encouraging that so far this season we've had, 6 or 7 separate goal scorers if you count the Sheffield United game as well. And I think Mullin has to play. As soon as he's fit and up to scratch, which is probably a week or two off yet for me, I think he has to take his place, doesn't he?
I would say so. I mean, look, there's 2 points I want to make. I'll go with the one that's kind of more on the theme right now. Is we did get a YouTube comment, Rich, saying that why does no one talk about Ollie Palmer? Why does no one sort of give him his flowers? Because he has actually started the season really well, and I think I've been one of those people that I still think there is an upgrade to be made there, but I can also appreciate that he has played well. He's been effective in the games that he's played so far, and that extended to Reading on Saturday. Thought he looked very good in that opening game.
Arguably our most underrated player, you could say, couldn't you? Because last season he carried us the first 2 or 3 months, Ollie Palmer. Like he was like a one-man army up front. He put in a work rate I didn't know he had, and he was doing things I didn't know he was capable of doing. The hold-up play was excellent. He was scoring really good goals as well. You think of that chip against Walsall, the sort of volley from outside the box. Like these are Paul Mullin goals. But it's Ollie Palmer who's doing it, and you're right. He does probably deserve more of a shout out because we keep on talking about, well, he needs to leave at some point. Obviously, we want someone better than Ollie Palmer, but right now he deserves to be playing every single week, and there's no real case to ever drop him.
And I also think that it was, for someone who is with his personality that is quite brash and, not lacking in self-confidence in any description, I think it was quite nice and quite mature of him to sort of really sit down with Stephen Fletcher in the week and go over and celebrate with him and credit him for something that had clearly been worked on. That must be the most rewarding feeling for not just the management team, but also for the players when you do something repeatedly on the training ground and it works. And you could see his movement at kind of the second phase. It gets out to Barnett, who we have to say, Ryan Barnett, I know you mentioned him, but what a dilemma we've got at wing back right now because just everybody is on top form. You've got McLean getting man of the match. Revan's been spectacular, I think, so far. and Barney's playing out of his skin. And you see the ball come out and just the movement. And when I watch it back, it's not obvious like what Palmer's doing. It's not like huge sort of dragging players left and right. It's just like really subtle movements that differentiates good players from great players. And while I'm not saying he's suddenly shown he's a great player with that one bit of movement, Fletcher is a great player and has been, and that's why he can see things that he can put in your game. And that is why you do keep people like McLean and Fletcher around, because they can give you little 1% during the week. And that's that coffee shop meeting where they were, where Fletcher was talking to him about, why don't you try this and do a bit of this, and then it works in the game. You get the opening goal and you're away then, aren't you?
Yeah, and again, like you said, that again on that, it's like fair play to Ollie for being open to new ideas, because what is he now? He's 32. And, lots of players could be like, well, I've already made a career. I've been playing the game for 14 years professionally. I don't need to learn new stuff. That openness to learn new things and try better himself is great. And Ollie, now 32, is probably playing the best football of his career. Like, that is really, really good. And again, I think he is underrated as a clever and intelligent footballer, because he reads the game really well. And like you said, it's those little subtle changes. And sometimes it's working with a defender as well. It's saying to one of your centre-backs, what do you expect me to do in this situation? Because if I know what you're expecting me to do, then I can try and outwit you and think one step ahead. So, yeah, fair play to him for doing that. All in all, a really good weekend. And Nath, speaking of YouTube comments, probably brings us on nicely, doesn't it, to our to the competition we teased last week.
Yes, why not then? So the giveaway last week, Hypnotic giving away the amenity kit and the bottle opener. Look at that. I even found it on my desk there. The Hypnotic bottle opener and the amenity kit. And I put it through what do they call them? Like those YouTube random generators.
Roulette things, almost,
spinny,
aren't they? Yeah.
Spinny wheel, the official term. The
you were
YouTube
on the slots.
spinny wheel. I was on the YouTube comment slots, as you know me, big time YouTube comment gambler, Rich. And I can say that the winner of, I don't even know where in the world this person is, but Ivan 5658, catchy. But Ivan 5658, I'll also comment on the YouTube video to reply to your comment. But congratulations, you have won the amenity kit, the bottle opener. We do have more giveaways to come, so everyone who commented and subscribed, we really do appreciate it. We've got a cracking one maybe for next week, Rich, maybe when we sort that out, which I think might even be better than the amenity kit, dare I say. So look, congratulations to Ivan, congratulations to him, and I don't know, Rich, are you going to chuck something else in or not, or am I throwing your own products away here?
If maybe not, isn't even to Ivan. Ivan 5658, do you say? Better than the other 5,657 Ivans. I've got when we went to Vancouver, we were given like a piece of merch at the game. I've got a size medium green Wrexham t-shirt. It's literally just a nice green t-shirt with the Wrexham logo on it. That's a size medium. Ivan, if you're size medium and you want that, let us know. We'll throw that in as well. If not, that'll be given away on next week's show to someone else, or the week after. Basically, there's some Wrexham goodies that will be given away throughout the season as well. So again, stay tuned to us, Rob, Ryan, Red, on all the socials.
Rich, then let's move things on, because it is the transfer window. I was going to get into something else, but I didn't want to rile you up. I was going to get into, George Evans was in the fan zone, not in the matchday squad. George Dobson's playing out of his skin. Doesn't look like there's going to be any movement there. But let's not get into that, because you're very, very precious about gorgeous George, and I don't want to kind of set you off. You've already had the noodle fiasco. That's enough for one day, I think. Transfers then. Transfer latest. We've spoken about Michael Smith before, the striker at Sheffield Wednesday. Now, he was meant to travel with Sheffield Wednesday to Grimsby in the Carabao Cup, and Sheffield Wednesday's manager, Danny Röhl, confirmed that he didn't travel because of speculation around his future. So right now, there's not... And Rich, you've seen this plenty of times in the job. It's tricky for players, isn't it? When to kind of concentrate fully when they've got potential move, a big change coming up.
Yeah, I think that this is one of the things which, just in terms of football in general, it's so easy to have a go at a football player for playing a bad game or seeming disinterested. But there's so much going on behind the scenes in their personal lives, the uncertainty about where they might be living in a week's time, which club they might be moving to. There's so much unsettlement that, I think you've got to give that, a huge amount of significance, really. And we've seen it a lot as well, that once a player sort of can solve their off the field issues, they can improve tenfold on the pitch. And they both are really, they're just both so intangible, and they're both so closely linked. So yeah, I think with Michael Smith, it obviously makes sense for him to sit out until his future is resolved, until he knows where he's going to be playing next season, and it's just part and parcel of sort of the modern world of football. Really, I do think that obviously Wrexham's interest is well documented in Michael Smith. The fact he's not involved would suggest we are still keeping him open as an option. It is just when we talk about every single week, the squad is basically already there. Someone else will have to miss out if indeed we bring someone through the doors. The striker department gets even more sort of overflowed and bloated, and it's really interesting, isn't it? Because part of me thinks this is it now. I could see us finishing deadline day with no new additions, but part of me is still thinking, we've said it so many times, the listeners will be bored having to hear us repeat ourselves, but we do, despite how much we said we loved Ollie Palmer 2 minutes ago, we need to upgrade on him at some point.
There's one more. There's got to be one more signing in the locker. I think there's that printer's got one little bit of ink left in the cartridge. There's got to be. I just think that they've been working on something behind the scenes for a while. That they're obviously a lot more focused on outgoings. I think that's obviously well documented as well in terms of Parky said that on the record that there are players that need to get out now, and he's kept hold of them for a while. I'm personally of the opinion that transfer windows should close before the season even starts. I'm not a big fan of the idea.
Well, they tried that a few years
into...
ago, didn't they? Was that trialled in the Premier League? I think the problem with this was, I'm certain this was trialled between maybe like 2019 and 2021 or something. There was like 2 years or maybe 1 year where the Premier League's transfer window, maybe even the EFL's, we're National League, so it didn't matter, closed before the season started. But the problem was no one else in Europe followed suit. So the Premier League would effectively put themselves at a disadvantage because they only had a limited time to buy players, but they could sell players for an extra month. And it just meant that the teams were under more sort of stress to do it.
Totally understand that. I'm just saying, in an ideal world, I think it would be nice to just go into the season where your squad, your players can't.
Would
get
you
poached.
also? Are you one of these people who'd also have a sort of a managerial window where you can only make managerial changes during the transfer windows?
One of these people. How dare! One of you all hearing this? Are you one of these people?
Well, that wasn't meant to be a critique. I've heard it as a sort of a theory.
I didn't even hear the question. I was so outraged at these people. Sorry, what did you say? What was the question? Managers.
There's an argument that I've seen before that they have like a manager window where you can't sack a manager straight after a season, after the window closes and stuff, or in the first international break. Like, do you think there should be a set time every year to make managerial changes?
No,
I don't. I think there's too many.
I am not.
There's too
one
many
of those
sort
people.
of moving blocks, aren't there, in it? Because sometimes managers leave for personal circumstances. Sometimes they leave for other.
You've got to have the freedom of. If a manager wants to leave at any point and you want to get rid of them, I think that's fair game because it's all about performance. But whereas with the transfer window, that I think that could be completely revised and could be anyway. That's a big long debate. But let us know what you think about the transfer window. And what I did want to say was there's been a lot of chatter about one potential outgoing that I don't think in the last couple of weeks, Rich, we've really been across or really sort of given much credence to it, which was Luke Bolton potentially leaving the club. My understanding on that one is that a deal was lined up for Bolton to depart, but that deal has now collapsed. And these things are fluid. So on Wednesday, I'm giving it you as I'm led to understand it and led to believe that as things stand, unless another offer comes in for him, he will be staying at Wrexham. He's training with Wrexham as normal, as you would expect, any professional would. But yeah, a move was lined up for Luke. But what would that suggest to you then about his role? So say he does end up staying, Rich. We were ready to sanction an exit. Where does that leave Luke Bolton now in the wing back stakes?
You'd have to say he's probably third, maybe even fourth choice on the right, because maybe fifth choice. This is how confident it is, but I'd say fourth for this argument. Ryan Barnett is our starting right wing back. Our reserve option of right wing back is either James McLean or Seb Revan inverted there. So you could count that as 2, and we'll count it as 1 for sake of argument. Third choice is then Anthony Ford, because he is distinctly different to all those options. He is more defensively sound. I think he's more reliable, probably a bit more. He's one of these sort of hard-working, sort of 6, 7 out of 10 Gary Neville types, I'd say, more sort of an Anthony Ford. He's got more about him going forward, I'd say, but he's the third option. And then fourth's got to be Luke Bolton, because what does he do better than Ryan Barnett? I've not seen it. Again, the fact that he's a left footer means he's a very different type of winger to all those options, unless you play McLean there or Revan as well. He's got pace, but you need more than pace. There's a reason why Usain Bolt didn't make it as a footballer when he went to Central Coast Mariners. It's because pace doesn't just. You need more than that. What is Luke Bolton's trick? I was never particularly wowed when we signed him, to be honest. I was never blown away by what he'd done at Salford. And if you look at him, he's a good League Two winger, a squad player for League One level. And that's what he's going to be at Wrexham if he stays. So the question is more, look, we've openly tried to get rid of you. There's been players in the past that we've tried to get rid of. They've stayed and they've been very good. So that's not necessarily his career over. It only takes one injury, a red card, suspension, a freak bit of luck, and you get your chance. If you take that chance, the place is yours until you give a reason for it to not be yours. So, if he stays, you've got to make the most of the situation. But for me, it signals that his time is imminently going to be coming to an end. And it could be similar to when we sort of kept McFadzean around, but he was just there making up the numbers. And he did get re-registered in January, but it seems like his time is ticking. It seems like we were talking just then, if there was another promotion or a promotion push, whatever we do next season has to be built upon the foundations we lay this season. If Luke Bolton's not good enough now, is he going to be good enough next season?
Yeah,
No.
I do sort of feel for him slightly in that I just never felt like wing back was his position, and he was constantly having to adapt to a role that just isn't his. Now, you could make the same argument that a Solihull Ryan Barnett played on the right of a front three, didn't play right back, and has adapted really well to that. And I can understand that, and that there is clear distance between the two. And Revan has proven himself very, very good at right wing back as well, as we saw at Bolton. McLean seems a pretty solid selection at left wing back this season with the armband. I actually thought Ford was the one that they would maybe look, maybe move him. Hasn't really been even in the mix. I know Bolton has played in the cup game, but yeah, it's really interesting and quite telling. And we're at that point now where people are looking at contract extensions, and I'm sure Ollie Palmer will be one of those that will be looking at trying to land a contract extension. If that doesn't come anytime soon, you end up in that sort of Luke Young territory where James Jones got a contract, Luke Young didn't, and he kind of knew that one wasn't forthcoming. So let's see, between now and the end of the window, maybe someone will come back in for Bolton, but the move that was lined up for him seems to have been shelved. And also, Rich, still nothing yet on Jake Bickerstaff. We spoke about him last week with the hat-trick that he scored. Nothing there, nothing on the front of Billy Waters, or nothing publicly at least, no sort of tangible, credible links. And there's work to do on both sides of the ball, really, for Wrexham. It's potentially a very busy few days of admin.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see how it all comes together. And again, promise you this is the last time we're going to say it till January. But Parky has said in the past, look, that he keeps his options open till the final few days of the window because things change and options arise. And there might be a player who's not available on Thursday, but is available on Friday. So you've just got to keep your options open. Well, you can't rule anything out either.
Here was another one where, maybe we've come across him in terms of the day job, but is it Josh Adam, who was at Man City?
Yes.
His dad following Wrexham on Twitter, which, he's well within his rights to do, doesn't necessarily mean anything. But Josh Adam, a free agent, is that right? Have I made that up? That's right.
Yeah, he's a free agent. He was released by City in the summer. He was a player who, was it when we signed Luke Bolton? I asked Simon, who's the chief City writer for the MEN, about him, and he said, like, look, I think the exact phrase he used for Bolton was, he was always deemed the most unlikely to make it at Man City, but the most likely to make it as a footballer if he left the club. Right. I get this feeling the same about Josh Adam, that he just wasn't really, you come through City, you're going to have invaluable priceless sort of intel and experience and know how to play the game, but there's a reason they released him ultimately. City are whether you like it or not, they are giving chances to the likes of Oscar Bob and Phil Foden. They have got opportunities now for first team players. Josh Adam was never really in that upper echelon of youth talent at Man City, so he's an option. He's someone that Wrexham could look at. And would we still be able to register him after the deadline day if he's a free agent?
It's an interesting one. I would assume so. And he wouldn't, even if we do sign him, it wouldn't count against the cap, would it? The 22 cap. So I'm sure.
No, exactly. So he's one where there's not really a rush to get him done by Friday because you don't have to. So yeah, he's probably an option. He's an attacking midfielder, so he would be, you'd say, an alternative to Elliot Lee, maybe a Jordan Davis replacement. But then, what is Rathbone? We still don't quite know, and it'd be interesting to see
Rathbone
he's involved.
Rathbone is a fan zone hit so far. That's what he's had so far. Two trips to the fan zone at home. His time is coming, no doubt. You said it. Well, the question I was going to have just to end us on transfers, Rich, is somebody comes in with an offer for James Jones that's probably below your valuation. Is he somebody you would keep for squad depth? Because, you obviously are not going to gut the squad. You do need to be selfish and keep players around for your own needs and in case of injury and bish, bash, bosh. But is he somebody that you would look to move before the window or before the window closes, or are you looking to keep?
It's so difficult. It depends what offer comes around, isn't it? We've said that there's such good value in having a utility squad player with his attitude and application, someone who accepts he won't be playing every week, but will give us all when he is required to play, will fill in a number of positions. He's played I swear he's played wing back for us before. He's played central midfield. He will fill in wherever is required. So I think there's real value in having someone like that around. But ultimately, it's a short career. If he gets the opportunity to play regularly, I think it would be in the interest of all parties for that to be explored. I just think it's one of those situations where you're not going to be actively looking to get rid of him. But,
Go on then, Rich.
Every a price.
Prediction. 0 signings, 1 signing, or more than 1 signing before the window closes?
I'm going positive. No, I'm not. I'm going 0 signings. I'm going 0.
Yeah. I'm going to go 1. If you listen to this before Friday's 11 p.m. deadline, let us know in the... You can also, remember, you can leave comments on Spotify or Apple. And I think we're nearly at 300 reviews on Spotify. So if anyone can help us get to 300, that would be very, very helpful. And give us a little nudge up those pesky Spotify charts. Rob Ryan Red. Rich, come on then. Fantasy EFL. You forgot. We're only 3 weeks in.
Well, I knew I was going to forget at some point. This is what annoys me more. These Thursday night games mean the deadline for fantasy football is like midweek, which is just too early. So, I was thinking to myself, well, when I used to play Premier League fantasy football, I'd be aware if there's a Friday night game or not. I would usually, my Friday lunchtime at work, that's when I'll do my fantasy football. Last Friday, sat down, I think I had a tuna mayo sandwich, and I was getting ready to do my fantasy football league, and Grimsby had already played Notts County, and I was locked in with the same team I had from the week before. So I've not checked. I don't care. I'm annoyed. I'm glad it's out of the way early on because I set the bar very low and it's only going to get lower. I can limbo a lot, mate. So, yeah, how did it go for you? Because you are invested in this.
I am very invested. I'm going to share my screen again and hope that all goes to plan. And I will also do a better job of describing it because you did scold me last week when I showed off the trophy and just said feast your eyes to a load of Spotify listeners and Apple listeners. But it went okay for me, actually. I wasn't manager of the week. Shock. But you can see here is my team, and I'll talk you through it if you can't see it. So my team, Rich, I went with Corey Adai in goal. Let's be honest, Stockport have started really, really well and looked defensively sound. He was my top scorer with 9 points, along with a certain Super Max Cleworth. What a guy. 9 points. Happy days. Max has got 8, 9, and he's got great fixtures coming up with Shrewsbury in there as well. 2 clean sheets, only 2 goals conceded, 4 clearances, 3 tackles. Max is a great asset in fantasy football. And also, what I hate, the fact that I had Elliot Lee in week 1, didn't trust the stock, and he was incredible. Wrexham's best player this week. I had Michal Halleck from Huddersfield. They look one of the best sort of defences in League One so far. I then went with Watford's Edo Kayembe. Did not do me too well. Kwame Poku at Peterborough only got me 4
So
points.
basically, you chose midfielders who'd played well the week before.
Yeah, I fell into the trap.
okay.
I fell into the trap.
Yeah.
And then I went with Armando Dobra up front, who every time I watched him in League Two, Rich, was just so electric. And I thought, surely Chesterfield against Salford. That finished 1-1. Armando Dobra did nothing. And I captained a certain Louis Barry up front, who has looked like a cheat code so far in this level. And then I had Chesterfield and Huddersfield, which puts me on 172 points. And in the Rob Ryan Red League, there are now 402 players, Rich. I am 102nd in there.
So okay, interesting. Hughes won this week.
Well, this
95
was
points.
95 points manager of the week. Look at that. Captain Elliot Lee. So in goal, so manager of the week, Hughes has Arthur Okonkwo in goal. Who's that? Ricardo Santos at Bolton. Yeah. Ethan Ampadu for Leeds. Christoph Bielik, I think it is. Christian Bielik, pardon me. Birmingham got 10 points. Elliot Lee, 28 points as their captain. Alfie May, Kyle Wotton, and Wrexham scored 9 points, and Birmingham scored 9 points. So congratulations, Hughes, manager of the week.
Do you know what's so annoying, Nave? That was the exact team I was going to pick.
Right.
That was the exact team I was going to pick as well.
Now, if anyone is watching though, and you can see that I'm 102nd in this league. A Woodfine is top, 210 points, so it's still pretty bunched together. We're early on. Let's just scroll down, shall we, to see where we can find Feyenoord. Now you will have to bear with me.
I would be staggered so many points I got last week.
I didn't realize how far Feyenoord would be down. I probably should have preloaded this, but I thought just for comedic effect, I'd keep going.
Still going.
So we drop outside the top 200 because obviously, Rich forgets his team. And McLean's Ahami, there you go. Jay Jones, 217.
What I want to see is the people who have actually tried who are still below me, because that is you might as well quit at that point.
Driving Dan Scar, Chelsea Humphreys, come on now, get it together. 259th. Mulling it over, Arbithel. So let's keep going, shall we?
Still not seeing myself.
No. I mean, some great names as well. McDeadpool, Andy Cannon, Cena Line, 299. So we're outside the top 300 now. Let's see. Point out if you can see Feyenoord.
Nope, keep going. Still waiting.
No,
still waiting.
You are in the top, but you're in the 300s, Rich.
There we are, 331.
331, and look at your team from this week. Goalkeeper, 0. Vitinho, 2. Ethan Laird, 1. Luke Molyneux, 2.
Yeah, but
Gus Hamer, 6. Emmanuel Latte, 6 is your captain. Bowman, Bradford and Doncaster did all right as your picks.
Not laughing anymore, is he? Yeah. I promise I will change my team for next week, and this feature will be better. But yeah, thank you to everyone who is involved in the Fantasy Football League. Like I said, we have got two trophies. We've got a trophy for first place. We've got a trophy for the runner-up as well, which at the moment look like I'm going to have to post that off to someone. It's not going to be staying with me. Nath, I guess it's going to bring us on nicely to this weekend then, because Peterborough away. Another tough test, it feels like a proper League One day, that doesn't it? I know there's been all this hoo-ha on social media this week about that thick Peterborough fan who is just not come across very well. I know I've not come across well there. That was kind of the joke. But yeah, Peterborough away. What do you reckon?
Tricky. You're one of the games that I look at, and I think that screams of a potential welcome to the league moment, where it's maybe not the most glamorous away day, London Road, but they are just battle tested, and they get rid of players, super high turnover, and they just find new ones. And they just create stars all the time that they can sell for. I think they've been turning down bids of like 3-4 million for Kwame Poku, and you just think that's baffling. Imagine if we got a bid now of 4 million for a player. I think even with our resources, we would be selling, no questions asked. So they are very, very talented. They are a team that presses really high. Darren Ferguson's got them that they are super aggressive in the press. They play really nice football. Shrewsbury are rubbish, but they made light work of them. They did struggle against Huddersfield, but they look like they've changed their team since then. And this is only their second home game, so they will be lively, right at it. Fergie will obviously be incredibly motivated up against Wrexham. And I am, dare I say, I'm slightly fearful. Look, we can go there and really take it to them and do what we did against Bolton and dig in and try and go toe to toe. But I'm also slightly fearful as well, Rich.
Yeah, it's just you know what I mean. Some games just strike me as the sort of days where you could be dropping points, and Peterborough away just stinks to it for me. It's a long, horrible way to go, really far away. We're in such good positive moods. It feels like there's loads of stuff going. Surely there's got to be some pessimism around the corner. I think I think there'll be a goal in it. I think we'll either draw. Actually, no. I think we'll either draw 1-1 or lose 2-1. That's what my feeling at the moment.
It's a positive start that I have my ticket on my Apple Wallet, which very convenient for me. Love that. You don't have to go to the racecourse to collect, and love that. So positive start to an away day that hasn't even happened yet. I'm looking forward to making the trip. I'm one of those that's trying to do the 92, Rich, eventually. No great rush, but this will be ground tick number 59 for me. I did top them up,
which is very impressive.
Ground tick number 59 for me, which is good. Well on the way. Hopefully get a couple more in League One. That is the weakest league for me in terms of the ground ticks. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Apparently, you've got to go through a big Asda. Go through the Asda car park, and then you can get there from the station in about 20 minutes. So if anyone else on the train, say hello. I'll be going down on my own, I think. But I'm looking forward to it. And I thought, what better, Rich, than I've got a friend, a follower that I've kept in touch with now and again over the years. No, over the years on my personal account. You
made it sound like they follow your sort of religious teachings and everything that you stand for.
One of my disciples, one of my many disciples, who is a big Peterborough fan, tweets a lot, and I've just always been one of them, looking at them taking non-league talent when we were in non-league, and just found them really interesting case, especially with Fergie. And so I got John on the podcast to talk me through Peterborough, and he tells me why he thinks they have the best midfield pairing in all of League One. Right then, back on the road after a dominant thrashing, we'll say 3-0, why not thrashing, of Reading, but back on the road to one of the games that I would say when the fixtures came out, I was probably more nervous for this one than Bolton away, which I know people may not believe, but I did put Peterborough at third in my predicted end of season table in League One. And one of the people I've followed for a long time, John, who I've seen tweet about Peterborough a lot, I thought, get him on. So, John, am I right to be worried about going to Peterborough this weekend?
I don't know, is the honest truth about that. I think Posh is still at a stage where we're sort of sussing out the lay of the land a little bit, because we obviously, our first home game against Huddersfield, we were poor. We didn't look anywhere near their level. Since then, we've been back to last season standards where we've looked good. We've looked pretty good on the ball, particularly at Shrewsbury away. We dominated the game completely, really. And that was really encouraging. But we're still learning a little bit about the team. We've got an entirely new back four, so they're all still bedding in a little bit. And there's still a few areas of question marks. But yeah, I think you should come, with a little bit of trepidation, I would say, just in case, because we are a very good team when we play. If our forward quality is excellent, and if we are a little bit more ruthless in front of goal, which was a criticism of last season and has been a feature this season again, where we've had chances, we've missed them. But if we can do our thing on the ball and start taking our chances, I think we'll be a strong team. And London Road is always a difficult place to go in League One, isn't it? Our record there is pretty exemplary over a number of seasons. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if we're going to finish above Bolton. I'd be delighted with that. But I think there's right that, you should have a little bit of fear coming into the game.
Just one of them whereby Peterborough just seems like a real potential welcome to the league moment, because they're just so battle tested. And even though you've lost Harrison Burrows and you've just, the turnover of players you've had over the years is crazy. I think if you're Wrexham, you mentioned that back form, and we'll get through the team as we go on. But, is it Sam Curtis at right back, only 18 years old? I think if you're Wrexham, you're looking at somebody like that. And it's really interesting because you've got such a young team. I'm not sure how old Jack Sparks is on the other side, but everybody, when I look, seems to be 23, 24, Oscar Wallin, Emmanuel Fernandez, Jed Steers, a bit more experienced in goal. But, we could go right through the team, and it is brimming with youth.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a club policy. We generally don't sign players that are over 24 years old. Jed Steer being the exception and pretty much the only one over 30, which makes me feel very old. If you're going to target Sam Curtis, though, I've got some bad news for you. I think he's probably been our best defender so far this season. He's been really impressive. Looks very good defensively, which is different for Posh. At Exeter particularly, he was brilliant throughout the whole game. Very aggressive, front-footed defender. I'm very encouraged by what I've seen from him so far. So he might be young, but honestly, he's not a weak link. If you're looking for a weak link, and this might be a little bit of a harsh one, I would suggest that it's potentially Manny Fernandez just because of his ball playing ability. Defensively, he's very good though. And he is a player that may well suit playing against Wrexham because you're very physical, very direct. Manny's 6'5". He doesn't lose many headers. So, yeah, it could be a game for him. And for that reason, I'd probably start him.
It's really interesting, the setup, because you seem pretty, Fergie seems pretty structured in that 4-2-3-1 type setup that is, a popular choice, popular formation for many managers. Not for Phil Parkinson. He likes his 3-5-2. So it will be, there'll be overloads in certain areas for us and overloads for you. One of our big successes has been George Dobson at the base of our midfield. And when I've had a quick scan just before we came on, sort of the two in front of the back four for you seems to have chopped and changed a bit. I saw the young lad from City, Susho, or he was in there for a bit, and then a guy with a double barrel name that I can't remember. There's a lot of so there's a lot of pieces in there. Is that a bit of an area where you and the fans and Fergie still trying to figure out the best combination there?
No, the only reason it's changed is because Cipriano was injured. Cipriano's club captain this season, so it'll be Cipriano and Collins. And for my money, those two are probably the best midfield duo in League One. I don't think it's too extreme to say that. They are both absolutely exceptional players. Genuinely, both could play in the Championship. I'm pretty sure of it. Cipriano's 6 foot and a bit, good on the ball, has a bit of everything. Collins is just the orchestrator, just brilliant technically, but also very good to the breakdown. He's quick to press. They're both very complete midfielders, and honestly, they're two really key players for us this season. So, those two are pretty hard to knock out the team now. Cipriano's back.
That's bad news. I thought you were going to come and say there's a state of flux and Wrexham can profit, and no, you just got your club captain and a reliable partner with him. What most people, when I'm listening to other podcasts or these Twitter space, and they're talking about the firepower that Peterborough have and these young whippersnappers that could give the experienced heads, James McLean and Owen O'Connell, people like that, a headache or a long afternoon. And we'll see what kind of lineup we put out, because we've got people like Seb Revan and Ryan Barnett who can, run anyone off the pitch, I think, for pace. We'll soon see at least at the weekend. But Kwame Poku, Joel Randall, they seem nailed on if they're fit. Are they your two big threats, do you think?
Randall's one who divides fans. I am one who I think he knows the system very well. Positionally, he's a very good player. His end product can be lacking. Poku against James McLean, as I think it'll be, is an area where I think we can get at you. McLean's obviously very aggressive. He has been throughout his whole career. But Poku is so tricky, so nimble that he almost thrives off that. He's very, very good in tight spaces, and he doesn't shirk a challenge or anything like that. And he's quick off the mark, so if there is room in behind, Poku is definitely a massive threat. And I think he could have a major, major breakout season this year. Actually, one of the new guys is worth a watch as well. Abraham Odo started down the left flank recently and looks really technically good. You might have even known more about him than we do coming from League Two. Honestly, just shocks me how good technically he is since he's come in. Quick as well, which is great, but it's that technical ability that really stands out already. So we've got some real good threats going forward. Up front, it'll be interesting. You could see Malik Mothersill, who's scored, and I think he's probably the more likely candidate to start. And we've tend to bring on Ricky J. Jones in the last few minutes. And I don't know if you've seen any Peterborough clips recently, but the boy is lightning. Runs the 100 meters in under 11 seconds. I don't know if you saw at Exeter. He ran from, and I'm not exaggerating, his own penalty box straight down the other end of the pitch and laid Poku off for a goal, and Poku should have scored, but fluffed his shot a little bit at the end. But he's the quickest player in the Football League by a mile. So against tired legs, he's becoming a real asset to have off the bench. So he's one to watch out for sure.
John, you're not doing much to calm my nerves or the nerves of others, because we've been so good so far, undefeated, and we've got to come to what I think will be a highly entertaining, I hope I'm not going to jinx it now, touch wood, but a highly entertaining, very fast paced, because like I said, we've got Ryan Barnett, who's a whippersnapper down the right side. And I actually thought, when I looked at whether it was Huddersfield or the Oxford Cup game, I was really interested where Chris Conn-Clark would kind of fit into the puzzle, because he's that latest one off the non-league production line. We knew him well from his time at Altrincham. Lastly, before we maybe get onto Fergie, how's he bedding in? Is he taking a little bit longer than maybe fans expected, or as normal for Peterborough?
He looked great in pre-season. Started our first game against Huddersfield and had quite a poor game. Then came on against Oxford and was here and hit and miss almost. He did some good things and did some bits where he's a little bit sloppy in possession. I think with Conn-Clark, it's a fitness thing. I think we press quite high in the forward line, and it's quite regimented in the sense that you have to press high and then get back. And I'm not sure Fergie trusts him as much as he does Odo defensively, and I think that's what's holding him back. Realistically, look, he's made a massive step up coming to the top of League One, so I'm sure he'll get game time. He scored I think a hat trick or maybe 2 goals for under 21s recently. So we're all quite encouraged by what we've seen. I know on our podcast, the Poshcast, we all tipped him pretty much to be signing of the season over pre-season because he looked that good. So clearly there is something there. I think now we're in sort of the league season. It's just building that trust with your manager, and I'm sure once he gets that and his fitness levels and his speed and sharpness of Football League standard, he'll be a big player for us this season.
Well, look, for the last 2 weeks, we've been asked on other podcasts to talk about Phil Parkinson, and obviously needed to give no introduction to Bolton or to Reading. And now the shoe's on the other foot. We need no introduction to Darren Ferguson, obviously, an iconic player for us, very well remembered by fans of a certain generation. What is he like? What does he mean to you lot as a manager? He's been there about a gazillion times in charge, and he's been sacked a gazillion times. But, clearly he's huge for you lot.
Yeah, I mean, I love him. I think he's the best posh manager pretty much any Peterborough United fan would ever have seen. I'll be honest, when he came back for a 4th time, I was a little bit like, oh, again. But actually, he's come in with the style of football that we play is so good to watch now. He's changed it up, and we're so much more possession based than it's just very modern football. Like what you see the top teams doing. We're very much like that. It's so possession based. Good transitions. You can really see the rotations in play, and I know it's all these fancy words that are very much part of the modern football parlance, but it is really good to watch. I love the style of football and the brand of football that we play with the young players and skillful wingers that are encouraged to run at fullbacks and thrive in those pockets of space and given that creative freedom. So yeah, he's done an amazing job. I mean, I don't think there's too many managers that would go with this young and hungry policy and have this much faith in youngsters. I mean, the average age of our team is like 21 this year. So there's not that many managers that would be like, yeah, okay, I don't need experience, because you know what, a lot of people they like that experience core and know-how, whereas Fergie kind of trusts them to do it. And last season, although it didn't end how it probably should have done, I think we were good enough to go up. And controversially, I think we were comfortably the better team than Oxford over 2 legs, to be honest. That's football. Sometimes you don't get what you deserve.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I've loved it. I love Fergie. I'm very much happy to have him here for as long as he wants to stay here now, I think. And I think that's pretty much what the club think too. I can't see him going anywhere very soon.
Well, who knows? Maybe one day at Wrexham, we shall see. Maybe one day, and he'll probably still come back to you after us anyway. Yeah. If he ever did make the move. Go on then. What do you make of League One this season? Because on the face of it, friends of mine who support Premier League clubs or clubs in the National League, they're just looking from the outside and go, League One is absolutely stacked with the money that's being spent and the teams that are really pushing for it. Do you feel like that? Peterborough veterans really of the league, that they know the level well. Or are we getting a little bit carried away with just how good we think this league is this year?
I don't know. To me, it feels like not necessarily that much better than it was last year. I really don't think that. I mean, Birmingham look title favourites to me. I think they've spent so much money. It's ridiculous for this level. should go up. Anything other than top two is a failure, let's face it. I think then beyond that, there's a lot of good teams without necessarily having another outstanding team, if that makes sense. So I think there's a lot of teams, and I'd put Wrexham in that bracket as well, as teams like Stockport and Posh and Huddersfield and Rotherham, and even though they started badly, but you know what I mean. There's a lot of teams in that bracket which I'd put sort of that are going for the playoffs, maybe could sneak a top two place. But if they're outside of like the top eight, it's a disappointment. So there's a lot of good teams, is what I would say. But I think that second spot is pretty. I think it's hard to call who's going up with Birmingham, because I think they've probably got one of them on lock.
Well, I put Rotherham in the pre-season, and then I had Posh, and Rotherham have started terribly, but I'm convinced that they'll eventually click and figure it out. But who knows? Steve Evans is seemingly getting fined every week and not shaking anyone's hand, and we'll soon see. But what do you think for the weekend then? I know Up the Poshcast have hit the, you've taken over Wrexham Twitter this week with some bold predictions, a 5-1 here and a Hollywood FC there. So it's been a lot of chatter with you guys, but I know you weren't on that episode, John, so I'll give you some allowance. But how do you see the weekend going? Because do you think it'll be a tighter game? Do you think it'll be this free-flowing game I'm maybe hoping for?
I mean, yeah, I'm not as confident enough to come on and say we're going to win 5-1. I'm not going to make any statements like that. I think we'll win, if I'm honest. I think you've obviously made a really good start, and you've got so much momentum behind you that definitely counts for something. And my other concern is big direct teams are literally Posh's kryptonite. We do not like the ball being pumped in our box, at least until this season, where we have got two massive centre halves this season. So that might have changed, but we haven't really come up against a team that's going to do it to the level that you're going to do it to us at the weekend. If I look at it player for player, we've obviously had people like Jack Marriott at the club. Ollie Palmer's you've got a lot of solid League One players, but I don't know if you've got that standout star of League One. I don't know if that's maybe from the outside looking in, but there's good players at this level, and I don't know if you've got somebody that I think, he's a good player for this level, like I don't know, like someone like Karamoko Dembele that was here last year, or someone like that. I don't know if you've got that. So I think if Posh get the ball down and are allowed to play their game, which I'm hoping we will, Charlie kind of picked up on it that teams that give Posh a lot of the ball, we do generally do all right against. So that's conversely to what I was saying about the long balls. But in terms of possession play, we're pretty good. So I'm going to go with a narrow win. I think we've just about edged it. It's at London Road. I'd be more concerned if it was at your place. So I'll go with 2-1. I'm not going to say anything too controversial, I hope. I don't want to go viral on Wrexham Twitter like the rest of them.
I was going to agree with you, but now just to be contrary, I'll say Wrexham will somehow park the bus, frustrate the life out of the London Road crowd. James McLean, 1-0 winner. Why not? So, Rich, there you go. John thinks Peterborough will win and Wrexham will lose for the first time in League One this season. Shock. Interesting as well, he said that he thinks in Archie Collins and Cipriani that they have two midfielders, the best midfield pairing in the league, he thinks. And he doesn't think that's controversial. He thinks they both should be in the Championship. He's also relishing seeing Kwame Poku up against James McLean. And he also said that they have the quickest player in the Football League, someone that's basically someone who could compete in the 100-metre sprint. So a lot of ingredients there that I don't like the sound of.
No, it's just, like I said, I think there's a lot of sort of elements to this one, which is, it's got to be a real test. It's got to be, because Bolton was an away day you can really gear yourself up for. It was their first home game, a chance for us to be party poopers there, for us to play in this massive stadium, and for it to be... A
trip round home sense,
Yeah, a proper, just like a proper massive away day. Peterborough is a very good Football League away day, but it's not got that same sort of edge to it as Bolton away. Do you know what I mean? It's not got that sort of glitz and glam. There's a reason this one's not on TV, for example. So I think it's just going to be really difficult. I think what fascinates me more, mate, is I think Peterborough away is going to finally give us that answer that we posed at the start of the podcast of where are we going to be this season. I think it's the type of game where we're going to face a few of these this season. There'll be 4 or 5 sort of away games similar to this. and they're going to be what really do decide on whether we get the playoffs or if we just miss out. So I'm intrigued to see how we cope with them. Intrigued to see after that big billing just how good these players are, because if you look for that Wrexham team, I think we could make the same argument about a lot of our players being championship quality on their day. So we will see.
Do we do anything differently? Because we could have, we could go and sign, Kylian Mbappe or somebody, and it could all change. But do we do anything? If we've got the same personnel, do we do anything differently? Do we ever go to this double pivot, or do we just stick with what's worked so far for us?
Well, I think even if we do sign someone, I don't think they'll start. Basically, and I know that sounds ridiculous. You could sign Messi or someone; he probably does get a game then. But I just don't think the way Parky treats new signings. I just think that they'll have to bide their time before they come into the team. I think it'll basically be the same team we've seen this season so far. I would be interested. The only position I think that's up for grabs really is that wing back role. Is it going to be McLean and Revan or McLean and Barnett? Who's going to be started? Maybe go Revan because he's had a week off, bit fresher. And midfield, I do think long term, this is one of those games where I would like to see Evans and Dobson with like Rathbone, maybe McLean or someone in the attacking role rather than Elliot Lee. Because this isn't me trying to be too pessimistic, but I want Elliot Lee to prove me wrong this weekend and have a good away game. Because I've just not seen that many where he gets the same time on the ball or same amount of the ball, really. So I think long term, this is the type of game where I'd like to see the double pivot with, because I love George Evans and Dobson, and then someone in the attacking mid role. I don't think we'll see that, though. I think it'll be Cannon, Dobson, and Lee. And it'll be Marriott and Palmer up top, Mullen off the bench. I think the only change will probably be maybe Revan for Barnett, but I wouldn't be surprised either way.
We shall see. I'm very much looking forward to it. So if you see me, I don't know which shirt I'm going to go with yet, but very excited. Love an away day. But if also we'll try and find out. I'm desperately trying to find out the away pub, the planned meetup point, because that's always good fun as well before the game. And then what after this one, Rich? This next away game is probably the big one, Birmingham, which you can go to, as everyone knows if you've been listening to the podcast for a while.
If I can get a ticket,
if we can get tickets,
you'd expect that. I mean, surely they got to be on sale at least next week. I would have thought this week.
Rich, what's going to be harder? Getting, and it's a silly question, I'm going to ask it anyway. What is harder, getting a ticket for Birmingham away or getting an Oasis ticket, do you think? Because that's been the big thing on Twitter this week. How are you going to get an Oasis ticket? The question I want to ask is, how are you going to get a Birmingham City ticket?
I think Birmingham ticket is probably harder. Genuinely do, just because of the demand. That sounds ridiculous, actually. I'm not sure I even believe it now it's come out of my mouth.
You don't even believe that. You don't believe that.
I was trying to do the maths in my head, thinking how oversubscribed it. What do we get? 2,000 for Birmingham?
2,000, I think 2,100.
And you'd say there's going to be 5,000-6,000 people who'd want to go to that game, would you?
So you got a 1 in 2
chance? 1 in 3 chance?
Yeah.
Oasis, the suggestion is they could play 10 nights in a row at Wembley. There could be 1.5 million just from Wembley. They probably play in front of about 2.5 million. How many people in the world want to see Oasis? Probably more than 2.5 million. So, my maths is dead. This is why I had to drop A-level math. I took it for a week and my teacher kicked me off the course.
Oh, really?
Wasn't good enough. And I got kicked off the A-level course because I changed teacher. I didn't like the new teacher. Just didn't click. The only course I could do was A-level English. I'm a journalist now.
Rich, I actually did. I got a bit carried away that I did quite well at GCSE maths. We need to wrap the podcast because this is getting a bit silly. But I did GCSE maths, did really well. Obviously, everyone does GCSE maths. And then I took it at A level. And at AS level, I got potentially the biggest humbling of my life, that in one of the exams for AS level maths, I got a U, which I didn't even realize was a grade, unclassified. And
that's what I got.
You best believe I cut my losses. And I went back to my history class and I went back to my English language class and stuck to what I know, which I'm sure Phil Parkinson will do this weekend with his team selection. What a segue that is. Wrap us up, Rich, because I've just managed to salvage it.
If only we got A-level music, just like today's sponsor, Hypnotic. Thank you, Hypnotic, for the music you produce for the podcast. Thank you to Red 10 People Development. Will it be a posh weekend for us in Peterborough this weekend? We will see. We'll be back next week to look back on deadline day, look back on Peterborough United, and look ahead to a hotly anticipated, nasty, horrible home game against the Slops. Thank you very much. Take care. We'll see you again next time.
The Wrexham AFC podcast with Nathan Salt and Rich Bay.